Hi friends, welcome back. I'm Emily.
And I'm Whitney.
And you're listening to Cousins Talk Crime. This week's been a little crazy, don't you think?
Yes, we got so many new followers since our latest episode came out. A lot of people in Duggar have not forgot about the Chad McGee missing person
No,
case.
they haven't.
Now, when I saw that, I saw a lot of Duggar residents commenting, though, that they didn't know it existed.
I had never heard of it before.
Yeah, which I thought was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like a lot of you out there, we're not the only ones that want some answers.
No, there's a lot of people that want answers about that case. When you think of going viral, you think of like TikTok and things getting millions of views. But for like little old Indiana, you guys went viral about this.
Yeah, about all the shares.
Yeah, it was crazy, but yeah, we're excited to have you guys with us. And we hope you stick around.
Yes, and we hope one day to do a part 2 and get some more information on that one.
Yeah. With time.
Yeah.
Hopefully. But it was very evident that there are a lot of people that love Chad and care about him. And I'm sure that wherever he is feeling the love. So we'll go ahead and kind of dive into the next case. We'll just get right into it. There's not really a good way to go into this one. You just kind of gotta dive in. I wanted to get away from all the like brutal stuff because the Larry Eiler stuff was really brutal. And I didn't realize how horrific this case was until I started researching it. And this is not like Larry Eiler doesn't even compete with how brutal this is. So I am sorry that I'm bringing you two awful ones back to back from me. I do want to preface this episode with a few content warnings. Like I said, this is very brutal. The story will contain conversations about sexual assault, child abuse, suicide, and the murder of a child. And if any of these subjects make you too uncomfortable, I totally understand. This episode may not be for you. But if you can endure it, I think you should stick around because this victim really deserves to have her story told. You know, we need to bring awareness of how evil people are just living on the streets and you're passing by them every day. You know, they may have a pretty face. You don't realize, and especially for those that have young children, just never be too safe with your kids. So today I'm going to be telling you about the horrific torture and murder of Shanda Sharer. Shanda was born in Pineville, Kentucky on June 6, 1979. If Shanda was still alive today, she'd be 45 this June. Her parents were Stephen and Jackie, and they did get divorced when she was pretty young. Her mom remarried, and they moved to Louisville, Kentucky. And her mom divorced for a second time. And after a short amount of time, they moved to New Albany, which is right across the river in Indiana. So it wasn't far. Shanda was very active and played all kinds of sports. She was a cheerleader. She played volleyball and she played softball, from what I read. When she was 12 years old, Shanda transferred to Hazelwood Middle School in New Albany, Indiana. And at this school, Shanda met a 14-year-old girl named Amanda Heavrin. And they met during like a fight at school. I didn't really read what the fight was about, but they got into like a fist fight. I don't know. Girls being girls, I don't know. But they got stuck in detention together and they actually became really good friends. Yeah, so whatever it was that started that, I don't know. But their friendship developed into kind of like a flirty friendship. I mean, Shanda was only 12, so I don't know if we can say that it was like a super romantic relationship. She was only 12. But they were flirting, sending flirty little notes back and forth. You know how you did in middle school.
Yeah.
Now, apparently at this time, Amanda had a girlfriend. It wasn't like super serious because nothing's that serious when you're 14 years old.
Yeah.
It's not that serious. So, whatever. But apparently the relationship was very toxic. They were very jealous and whatnot. Amanda's girlfriend was a 16-year-old named Melinda Loveless. And so, for the sake of the story, it is important. So we're going to dive into Melinda's background a little bit. Her upbringing was really, really, really rough. Really rough. So Melinda was born in New Albany on October 28th, 1975. She had 2 sisters, and her parents' names were Marjorie and Larry Loveless. Melinda's father was drafted into the Army during the Vietnam War, where he served as a sergeant. The war left Larry with an extreme amount of PTSD. You know, back in those days, people didn't have therapy. People didn't, like...
Yeah.
You just got home from the war and you were expected to be a normal person. That doesn't happen. Our grandfather was actually on the beaches of Normandy on D-Day. I don't know if did you know that about him?
That,
yeah. And, I mean, they said he was never Larry, this guy, but he was always very quiet. Like, the war just changes people.
Yeah.
It's hard to see that kind of stuff and be a normal person. But anyway, there's no excuse for violence ever. So, according to Marjorie, Melinda's mother, Larry was a sexual deviant and would walk around with her in their daughter's underwear and makeup. Weird. Bizarre. He was incapable of being faithful and had a fascination with seeing his wife have relations with other men.
Oh.
That's weird. Larry couldn't keep a job down because of his behavior. He got a job as a probationary officer but was fired in less than a year because he assaulted a man after accusing him he was sleeping with his wife. But I thought you liked when other people slept with your wife.
Oh.
I guess not this one. He also worked as a mail carrier, but never actually did his job. He would just bring people's mail home and destroy it.
Oh my God. Isn't that like
just
a federal offense?
Yeah, just for shits and giggles, I guess.
Just didn't want people to get their mail.
Yeah, just wanted to be...
Weird.
Yeah. I don't know. Melinda's father is a psycho. You could have like a whole true crime episode about this dad. And I'm leaving so much out. And I will just say that. I'm leaving a lot of stuff out.
That's not good if you can't even talk about it.
Well, I mean, it's not that I can't talk about it. It's just that...
A lot.
It's a lot. This case would have to be like 4 parts if you wanted to talk about this guy.
Yeah.
You know, he's his own true crime episode. Melinda's parents were what you would call swingers, but not by Marjorie's consent. She was forced to be a swinger by her husband.
Oh.
And he would make people assault her.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great childhood.
So really not swinging, more like rape, basically.
Yeah. That's exactly it. Marjorie tried to commit suicide a few times, but was never successful. Larry had abused her severely enough one time that she was put in the hospital. And CPS got involved in all kinds of crazy stuff. But they ended up getting really religious, too, at some point. Like that overly religious.
Yeah.
Where it's like overly...
Yeah.
Where they're like doing exorcism all the time. Like that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Melinda was very emotionally and physically abused. And there was also accusations that her 2 older sisters were sexually assaulted.
By the dad?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And people are saying that if He assaulted the 2 older ones. He probably assaulted Melinda, but she just will not come out and say that she was ever assaulted. I've listened to an interview of her when she was older, and she never wanted to believe that he would do that, so I think she blocked that kind of stuff out of her head.
Yeah.
One day, her parents decided they were bored of religion and decided just to up and quit it. And Larry wanted to go back to his yucky man ways of drinking and sexually assaulting women. But the straw that broke the camel's back was that Marjorie, the mother, caught Larry spying on Melinda and a friend while they were like having a sleepover, and she attacked him with a knife. He was only cut on the hand, but he was hospitalized for that.
That's unfortunate.
Only on the hand.
Yeah.
It's too bad. Marjorie tried to commit suicide after this, but her daughters caught her in time to save her life. Larry filed for divorce after this and moved to Florida. Good riddance.
So he left his family.
Left his family. Melinda was very upset about it because she...
I feel like sometimes kids, they just love their parents unconditionally.
Yeah.
Or they've been, like, manipulated, you know?
Yeah, that's probably it. They say that he was manipulating her after he moved to Florida by, like, writing her letters, trying to get her against her mom and whatnot. And then he eventually got bored with trying to manipulate his own daughter and just cut off all contact with her. Just, I'm bored with you now. Bye. But karma does always come, and he got killed in a car accident in 1998. So
that's the end of his story.
Yeah, apparently before he died in 1998, he was getting charged with like 6 or 8. I didn't go super into it, so my facts are definitely not correct here, but 6 or 8 counts of rape on a child. He ended up getting off on it, and this was kind of the karma. He got in a car accident a few months later and was killed.
Jeez.
Now, Melinda's background was really, really rough. So you got to think of that as well whenever, I tell you this story. But I will say there's no excuse. People have bad things happen to them all the time. Unfortunately, there are a lot of abused people in the world.
Yeah.
But they don't grow up to do what Melinda does. And there's just no excuse for it. I'm not going to sit here and say that she was a victim. She was a victim as a child. But in the case of Shanda... she's not a victim. Like I said, you could spend a lot of time talking about Melinda and her background. And I've seen a lot of podcasts do that. I've seen some podcasts take this story into like 4 parts. Yeah. Because there is a lot to this story. But I don't really want to put a whole lot of focus on Melinda because I want to be more of an advocate for the victim rather than the people that commit the crimes. And so I don't want to spend a whole lot of time and try to pretend like what Melinda eventually does is justified, because it's not. Did Melinda have a rough childhood? Absolutely. Did she experience abuse that most of us can only imagine? Yes. But, like I said, there's no excuse for this. Melinda's a monster, and I want you to keep that in mind as I tell you this story. So, we'll get back to where we were in the story before I let off into La La Land of Melinda.
I do want to say something to our listeners. Sometimes, I know I do it. I've already done it during this one. If I'm uncomfortable, I'll like smile or laugh, but it's not because I think the situation's funny by any means. Sometimes when I'm really uncomfortable, I'll just like be like, but I don't want it to come off as I'm being insensitive.
No, I feel like I do that too sometimes.
Yeah, I just don't want people watching it and like, she's like smiling and laughing. It's like, no, I'm just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I just didn't want people to think like I thought a certain part was funny when I was just like, dang,
Yeah, no. And I hope people understand that too, because I feel like I did that a lot with the Larry Eiler case. I mean, it was so wild that I would find myself laughing because it was just so, I didn't even know people were capable of that. Yeah. And you laugh and stuff in uncomfortable situations. So just know that we don't think any of this is funny. That's just how we react to uncomfortable situations at times. Thank you for bringing that up because
I already did it one time and I'm like,
I didn't even notice you doing it. I did that a lot in the Larry Eiler case. I'm like, oh, people are going to think that I am this awful person and I think this is funny. I don't.
No, we know you don't.
Okay. So we'll get back to Shanda, which is the victim in this case. Amanda is her new friend that she met at the school that she's getting kind of flirty with. And Melinda, the girlfriend of Amanda. So now, even though things aren't serious between Melinda and Amanda, their relationship is really toxic. And Melinda's like overly obsessed with Amanda. She's obsessed with her. She doesn't want anybody to talk to or look at her, nothing. And Melinda was not the type of person to be shy. So if she didn't like you, she was going to tell you. She wouldn't sit and talk behind your back. She would tell it to your face. I did read that they were each other's very first, like, female relationship.
Yeah.
So they did kind of have a little special bond when it came to that. So in early October of 1991, Amanda actually asked Shanda to the school dance as her date. And of course, Shanda said yes. Now, Melinda saw this at the dance, was not very happy. And from what I read, she was literally chasing Shanda around the like gym or whatever, wherever it was they were having this dance, and threatening her. Like threatening to beat her ass. Yeah. I mean, she was straight off the bat, she was threatening her.
Shanda and Amanda are closer in age. They're both like 14-ish, right?
Shanda is 12. Amanda's 14. And then Melinda is 16.
Okay.
Yes. So we do have a little love triangle going on here. As much as it can be, like I said.
How did Melinda even get into that dance? Was she too old or did she just show up?
I'm thinking maybe the middle school and high school were like combined, and maybe it was a dance that they could both go to. Yeah. Or maybe Melinda was far behind in school and she was still in middle school. I do not know. That's possible.
I didn't know if she was crashing a...
Yeah, I didn't.
And I mean, maybe you're right. Crashing. Maybe she was old for her grade.
She may have been. Knowing how she grew up, her parents probably weren't that worried about her grades.
Yeah.
You know, they were worried about other things like exorcisms and whatnot.
Yeah.
But apparently Shanda didn't let it scare her away from talking to Amanda. Like, she still wanted to be friends with Amanda. And towards the end of October, Amanda and Shanda went to a festival together. And at this festival, Melinda confronted them again and publicly threatened her. And I guess Melinda was having open discussions, like public discussions with people about killing Shanda. Like, she's already conspiring that she's going to kill her.
Oh, boy.
But when you're that age, how serious do you take that? Like, do you think that someone that age is capable of actually following through with something like that? I don't think anybody thought anything of it.
Do you know who she was saying it to? Or just
random people.
Anyone that would listen.
They were also sending a lot of notes back and forth. Yeah. There are...
So did Amanda think she might be serious at any point?
I think after enough times, she thought that she was serious. But at this point, I don't think she thought that she was serious.
Yeah.
But Melinda was sending all kinds of notes with death threats and just all kinds of stuff. And they actually kept these notes. And there is a book called Cruel Sacrifice, and it's by Aphrodite Jones. And in the book, you can see all the letters that Melinda was writing back and forth to Shanda. She was writing letters to Shanda pretending to be her friend. She's doing that true mean girl behavior, like pretending to be her friend and then freaking out on her. And then, you know, at the same time writing another letter to Amanda saying how she's going to kill Shanda.
Was Shanda showing these to her parents? Were they concerned?
I don't think she was showing them at first.
I literally at 12 would have went home bawling. Like, I would have been showing my mom.
Oh, yeah, me too.
I would have been scared to death. I probably wouldn't have went to school the next day.
Yeah, no. I wouldn't have either. But the early 90s, there were a different time, I think, as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. But apparently they got into fights a lot at school. Like they were at each other's throats all the time. Like Melinda would physically just go up and punch her in the face. Just anything if she saw her looking at Amanda.
I think what's bizarre to me is like the 16 and 12. Like if my 12-year-old came home and said a 16-year-old's thumping on me, I'd be pissed. Like it's more than like another 12-year-old. You know what I mean? Like when you have 16 to me is pretty close to like you know you shouldn't be. Why are you thumping on a 12-year-old? You know what I mean? Go thump on someone your own size.
Yeah. I don't know. She obviously threatened. Had no control at her own home. So this is why she was trying to have a sense of control somewhere. I don't know. Things got out of hand. But once Shanda's parents got news of all the threats that she was receiving, and they also found very explicit letters between Shanda and Amanda about a physical relationship, which is kind of odd to me because she's 12. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm thinking a 12-year-old is a baby still.
Yeah.
And I've watched a Dr. Phil interview with Amanda Hebron, and people were calling her a child molester because she had a quote-unquote sexual relationship with Shanda. But we got to keep in mind, Amanda's 14, and Shanda's 12. Maybe a 16-year-old having a relationship with a 12-year-old would...
Yeah.
But 14's still pretty young, too.
To me, they're still young. Like, neither one of them should even know what any of that means at 14.
Yeah, no, they shouldn't. Absolutely shouldn't.
No, but your brain's not fully developed at 14. I don't think she was doing it to be like...
No.
You know, but none of them should have been doing any of that.
No, they shouldn't have.
They should have been like playing on the playground and stuff.
I think that's what I was doing at 12.
Playing in the woods, you know?
I think that's what I was doing at 12.
Riding their bikes. There was a lot to do back then besides that.
I know. But they found these letters and heard about the threats that she was receiving, so they pulled Shanda from that middle school. And she was transferred to a private Catholic school in November. So all this has really happened in like a month and a half.
Yeah.
It's just been kind of a really intense terror for her for about a month and a half. Now here, Shanda joined the basketball team, and she was just your everyday girl next door. She was a good girl. She was sweet. She was happy, healthy, carefree. I mean, she was just anything that a 12-year-old should be.
Yeah.
You know. But apparently she would be a little sneaky, and, you know, she would use the landline to talk to Amanda on the phone. They were told that they weren't allowed to be around each other because of all these threats. Mom's like, you've known this person for a month.
Yeah.
And this girl is threatening to kill you over this girl.
Yeah.
Okay, you're not allowed to talk to her anymore.
Yeah.
You know, if your life's at stake for talking to her, you're not talking to her anymore. Well, this is Romeo and Juliet. You can't keep young love away from each other. So they continued to talk even though they weren't supposed to. There was a time that Amanda was trying to sneak Shanda into a school dance because Shanda didn't go to their school anymore, so she was trying to sneak her in. But she couldn't get in because she wasn't a student. And at this time, in a crowd full of people, just imagining poor Shanda in the middle of a crowd of people, Melinda was telling Amanda to tell Shanda the quote-unquote truth, that she didn't love her and wanted nothing to do with her, and she hated her, and she thought she was ugly and all this kind of stuff. And so Amanda was like, yeah, she's right. I hate you. You're ugly. I don't want anything to do with you. So that wasn't very nice to poor Shanda. And she's not ugly. She's the cutest darn thing I've ever seen.
No, but I think if Amanda knew how crazy Melinda was, she might have been doing it to be like, even though it hurt hearing it, maybe she was like, you know what I mean? Maybe it's best you don't talk to me. And if I say all these mean things to you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Your life won't be in danger anymore.
Yeah. And apparently Melinda threatened Shanda and said, I will kill you if you ever talk to Amanda again. Just straight up said, I will kill you if you talk to her again. This is where I'm drawing the line. And Amanda did call Shanda and told her pretty much exactly what you just said. So that's a good call there. She said, I needed Melinda to think that I didn't want anything to do with you. That stuff wasn't true. I'm sorry that I had to say that to you. But I wanted her to think that we were done so that you're not getting threatened anymore. Now, according to Amanda Heavrin, I heard this on the Dr. Phil interview that I watched. She was giving all these death threat notes that Melinda was giving her to a youth prosecutor. I don't know if that's like the resource officer at the school or if that's a counselor. That's how she worded it. I don't really know what a youth prosecutor is. She was giving the notes to that person, but she never knew of anything happening. So she gave her all the notes that said that she was going to kill her, and nothing really came of it. I don't know how true that actually is.
Right.
That's Heavern talking about it 30 years after it happened. So that was November whenever she got sent to the Catholic school. Yeah. And so over the next couple months, she's still continuing to talk to Amanda, have a secret relationship with her. And we're going to fast forward to the night of January 10th, 1992.
That's not far.
No. This all escalated in 3 months.
Dang.
Like, this was not years worth of stuff, just a couple months. So on this day, Melinda Loveless recruited 3 friends to help her get revenge on Shanda for, quote-unquote, stealing Amanda from her. Now, the friends were Lori Tackett, Hope Rippey, and Tony Lawrence. Now, Lori Tackett was 17 years old, and Lori was kind of a new friend to Melinda. They had only known each other since, like, November, so they hadn't known each other for very long. And Hope and Tony were good friends of Lori Tackett. They had actually never met Melinda before. But they were kind of coming along with Lori. Lori kind of recruited these 2 people. Right. Because Melinda needed a group of girls to help her get revenge. Now let me tell you about Lori Tackett. Lori also had a really rough upbringing. So at this time, Lori was 17 years old. She grew up in a Pentecostal church, and she claims to have been sexually assaulted twice in her life, when she was 5 years old and when she was 12 years old. Now, the Pentecostal faith, they wear skirts, but that wasn't really Lori's thing. She didn't want to wear a skirt. So she would change into jeans at school. And when her mom found out that she was changing out of her skirt, her mom got so upset that she literally tried strangling her.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. To go to that extreme that you would strangle your own child over something like that, that's too extreme.
Well, it's just bizarre. It's not like really following any religion if you're strangling your child.
No.
You know, none of them say to do that if they don't.
Yeah. Like I said, she was friends with Hope Rippey growing up, and Lori's mom found out that Hope had a Ouija board at home.
Oh, boy.
And so she went to their house and demanded that they burn it and perform an exorcism on the house itself.
So Hope's parents, were they okay with the Ouija board, or did they were like, let's burn it? Were they?
No, I don't think her parents really cared.
Oh.
Like, it's just kids having fun.
Yeah.
You know.
So when she showed up there, what happened?
I don't know.
You don't know the actual...
I didn't. I just read that she was demanding that there was an exorcism performed on the house, and I kind of lost interest there.
Yeah.
That stuff, it just gets too crazy for me. When Lori was 15, she started participating in self-harm, hurting herself, cutting herself, that kind of stuff. And she also claimed that she was possessed by a spirit. It probably got in with the Ouija board. Her mom should have had it burnt.
Yeah.
Her parents found out about the self-harm, and she was put into a psychiatric ward a few times.
Have you ever played with one of those?
Yeah.
I have too.
Yeah. Yeah. I may have even played one with you as a kid.
Yeah, we probably did.
So she was put into a psychiatric ward a few times. She was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and claimed to have experienced hallucinations since she was a young child. She dropped out of high school and met Melinda Loveless in November, like I had said. So they weren't friends for a super long time.
Yeah.
And I didn't read where their friendship was like a romantic one or anything.
Yeah. Probably not, since she was obsessed with Amanda.
Oh, yeah, she was obsessed. So the next girl was Hope Rippey. She was 15 years old.
Oh my gosh.
From all that I read, she seemed to have somewhat of a normal childhood. Her parents did divorce when she was younger, but they ended up getting back together. And like I said, she grew up with Tony and Lori, so they've been friends for a long time. And she also like cut herself, and I don't know if that was the trend back in the day, but it was a trend apparently. And then the fourth girl was Toni Lawrence. She was 15 years old. She was abused from a very young age and was raped when she was 14 years old by a teenage boy. And according to what I read, he was only given a slap on the wrist and was just told to stay away from her. Apparently, Toni became very promiscuous and attempted suicide in the 8th grade. So, these girls, they've been brought up kind of rough.
Yeah.
Hope Rippey, not so much, but the others have some trauma in their life.
Yeah.
But like I said, nothing ever excuses what they are going to do. But the 3 recruits drove Lori Tackett's car from Madison, Indiana, to Melinda's house in New Albany. And like I said, this was the first time that Hope and Toni had even met Melinda.
Yeah.
And Lori was the mutual friend. When they got to Melinda's house, she gave them clothes to change into and showed a knife that she was going to use to scare Shanda. These girls did not...
They didn't know what they were getting into.
They had no idea what they were getting into. They thought that they were just going to go beat up a girl because she stole her girlfriend, just to scare her, knock her down a peg or two.
Yeah.
They didn't know what they were getting into. And I honestly don't even know if Melinda knew what she was getting into. I just think it was a combination, because they say it's peer pressure, but they're all being peer pressured by each other. So it's like one of those... What are those, like, little arcade machines where you, like, pull the thing and it's a ball and they're, like, bouncing all over the place?
Yeah.
It was like all the peer pressure's just bouncing all over the place. It doesn't, where does it start?
Right.
Melinda told the girls that Shanda was a quote-unquote copycat and she stole her girlfriend. Rippey then drove the 4 of them out to Jeffersonville, where Shanda was staying with her father for the weekend. They arrived at Shanda's house early in the evening. I want to say 6, 7 o'clock. That's my guess. I'm not for sure exactly what time it was that they went, but it was early in the evening. So Melinda told Hope and Toni they needed to go to the door and pretend to be Amanda's friend. And they were picking up Shanda for Amanda because she wanted her to meet him out somewhere for a party or something. Who knows what they told her.
Yeah, getting her an excuse to get in the car.
Yeah. So Shanda answered the door, and the 2 asked to speak with Shanda because they didn't know who Shanda was. And she was like, well, I'm Shanda. They were like, oh, okay. We're friends with Amanda. She's at the witch's castle. It is like a stone house in the middle of nowhere.
Oh my gosh.
She's at the witch's castle, and she wants us to bring you there. Shanda was like, I don't know about that. My dad's not going to let me go because they don't want me to be with Amanda.
Yeah.
And so Shanda said, come back around 12:30 or so.
Yeah.
And I'll sneak out. They said, okay, fine. We'll come back. So when they got back to the car without Shanda, Melinda was pissed. But they reassured her, we'll be back around midnight and she'll come with us.
Yeah.
She's like, okay, fine. There was a concert in Louisville that night. So they went to the concert in Louisville to waste time. And from what I read, Hope and Tony got bored at the concert and they just found 2 boys at the concert and took them back to the car and had sex with them. At 15? People are... Was I just that green?
I definitely
and immature?
Was. I definitely was.
I mean, I think I was just out of the loop when I was a kid. I had no idea stuff like that was going on.
This doesn't involve that, but does she ever call Amanda to make sure she wants her to meet there? No.
No, because, I mean, it's 1991. People don't have cell phones.
Yeah.
And, it's
I was
an
just hoping maybe since they do sometimes find a way to contact.
Yeah.
Because that would have probably saved her life.
Oh, it would have saved her life. She never would have went with them.
Yeah.
But they do eventually go back to Shanda's house. They get there around 12:30. On the way there, Melinda was talking about how excited she was to kill Shanda.
Oh, God.
Well, that's the first time they're hearing the word kill.
Mm-hmm.
Something's not sitting right with Tony. Tony's the one that first gets the kind of heebie-jeebies. And when it was time for Tony and Hope to go back to the door, Tony was like, nope, I'm not doing it. I'm not going and getting her if you're going to be killing her.
Yeah.
And so Hope and Lori Tackett went to the door. And Shanda was still a little reluctant, but she did agree to go. Her and Hope went upstairs to her bedroom, and Hope helped her pick out a really cute outfit to wear.
This is bizarre.
It is. This is like the true Mean Girl story here. She's all friendly with her, even though she knows what's coming. She goes up there with her to help her pick out a cute outfit to see Amanda in. Well, anyway, she gets the cute outfit on and they leave. Now, once she's in the car, start driving down the road. Melinda was in the back seat covered up with a blanket. So she had no idea that she was there. And so once they start going, Melinda sprang from the back and she put the knife to Shanda's throat. And, started questioning her about her sexual relationship with Amanda. Which is just, I don't know, it's just so weird to me. She's 12.
Does anyone in the car act like this is already too far or no?
Nope, I don't think so. I think the only person that is nervous about it is Tony.
Okay.
So Shanda was very upset. She did not think this was funny. She didn't think it was a joke. She'd been threatened for months. Yeah. And the person that's been threatening her and assaulting her for months finally has a knife to her throat. So she's,
right.
I mean, she's crying. She's probably wetting herself.
Yeah.
They took her inside of the witch's castle and they tied her arms and legs together with rope. Here, Melinda was taunting Shanda, saying she had pretty hair and wondered how pretty it would be if they cut it all off. And that, was freaking out Shanda even more, which makes me really sad because that's what she was afraid of. Mm-hmm. I don't think she really thought that she was going to be brutally tortured. I think she thought the worst thing that might happen to her is her hair get cut.
Yeah.
So at this time, Melinda was taking off Shanda's jewelry and she was wearing a Mickey Mouse watch. That is how innocent and...
Oh my gosh.
She's a child. She was wearing a Mickey Mouse watch. Let's put into perspective how young and innocent this girl is. Mickey Mouse watch. Anyway, apparently Hope took the Mickey Mouse watch and was dancing like a carefree child to the tune it was, the sound it was making, while they were being very mean to Shanda. I mean, these girls are psychos. It is like the butterfly effect, but in just one little jar.
So did they all participate?
Yeah, it ripples out. Like, it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse until it explodes. I mean, it's crazy. Everybody does participate but Toni. Toni does not participate.
What'd she do?
What'd she do what?
Does she go, like, run to get help or just hang out till it's done?
She hangs out till it's done. She gets to the point where she says that she was afraid for her own life. Like, she was afraid to say anything. Anyway, we'll get to that conversation.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. And apparently, Lori was telling Shanda that the witch's castle was filled with human remains and that hers was going to be next. She tried to scare her even more by lighting a shirt on fire around her. And Lori was afraid that the fire from the shirt was going to attract nearby drivers on the road. Because, I mean, they weren't super far off the road.
Yeah.
They're young kids. They don't understand that people can see stuff. So anyway, Lori was afraid people were going to see. And so they got in the car and left. Now, Shanda was screaming and begging for them to take her back home. And, of course, they didn't. They drove out to a remote area near Lori Tackett's home. And Lori led them to an abandoned building off the road in a dense wooded area. Now, at this time, I think Hope and Toni were getting a little bit of a sense that this has gotten too far.
Yeah.
They were afraid and they stayed in the car. They did not want to get out of the car. But Melinda and Lori drug Shanda out of the car and into the building. They forced her to take all her clothes off. And Melinda beat her with her fists. And she slammed Shanda's face against her knee. And Shanda had braces at the time. So it was just ripping her mouth up.
Ugh.
Oh, it was bad. And then at this time, Melinda then tried to slash Shanda's throat, but the knife was too dull. So she's like trying, and it's just too dull. It's not doing anything. So, I mean, that's got to be painful.
That's awful.
At this time, Hope got out of the car. I don't know if she got her brave face on or what, but she got out of the car to help the other two by holding down Shanda on the ground, while the other two took turns stabbing her in the chest.
Oh my gosh. So Toni just stays in the car.
Toni stays in the car. She does not participate in anything. The only thing that Toni participated in the entire time was going to Shanda's front door the very first time. They then strangled Shanda with a rope until she was unconscious. And they put her in the trunk, and I think they thought she was dead at this point. They then drove to Lori's house, which is pretty close. They went inside, cleaned up, and they drank some pop. They were just being kids. They just killed somebody, and they went inside to get a pop as a refresher. While they were drinking their pop, they heard Shanda screaming in the trunk. So apparently she wasn't dead yet.
Oh my gosh.
So Lori went out to the car and stabbed Shanda several more times. And when she got back, she was covered in blood. And she cleaned up and acted like nothing had happened. And the girls just hung out at the house doing what teenage girls do. And apparently Lori was telling the girls their futures with her rune stones. Just like nothing had happened. Let me tell you guys your future. Is it jail? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Is it prison?
You can only hope.
I hope that's what was in those rune stones.
So, is Lori, does she have parents that live there or anything?
Yeah, Lori's parents are there, but I think this is like in the middle of the night.
Okay.
So the parents are probably asleep.
Right.
And they may not be
And they have a body
super
in the
loud.
trunk.
Yes.
And I was nervous about like missing curfew. You know?
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Around 2:30 a.m., the girls decided that they wanted to go on a country cruise in the car. And Hope and Toni didn't want to go. They're
done.
They're done. They're done with this. So Melinda and Lori decide to go out by themselves, and the other two girls stay at home and they just go to sleep. The big thing here is, why didn't those two girls go get help?
Right. I feel like if it came to her that this is wrong, I'm not going to participate, why not wake up the parents? Why not get help? Why not call somebody?
Especially at this time, we're not certain that she's dead.
And you're away from the people that you're scared of. They're gone.
Yeah.
They're in the car. Now you're not fearful of your life. Now, try to make it right.
That was the thing that people went to Tony about. She was like, I was afraid for my life. They're like, but Melinda and Lori were gone for 4 hours.
Right.
They weren't there to hurt you. Yeah. Why didn't you do something at that point?
What does she say?
I don't know. There is not a lot on Tony. She is not one that wants to talk. Some of these girls will talk. They'll talk your ear off.
Yeah, hope looks like she's happy as a lark.
She gets questioned about that picture too a lot.
Yeah.
If you were so upset about what happened, why do you look like that?
Right.
She does have an excuse for it. But we'll get to that stuff. But yeah, why didn't they get help? Because she wasn't dead at this point.
Right.
We could have potentially saved her life.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, Melinda and Lori went out cruising with Shanda in the trunk. As they were driving around, they could hear Shanda in the background making a gargling noise.
Mm.
She's been so badly beaten and stabbed that she can't speak. She can barely function. She's just alive at this point. She's not a human at this point.
Yeah.
They stopped the car, opened the trunk, and Shanda sat up. She had enough energy in herself to sit up. They said she was covered in blood, unable to speak, and her eyes were rolled in the back of her head. She had some brain damage, apparently. Something. Lori then grabbed a tire iron and beat Shanda over the head with it until Shanda stopped making noise. When she got back in the car, she bragged to Melinda that she beat her so bad that she felt her head cave in.
Oh my gosh.
She could feel it under the tire iron.
These people are animals.
They are. I mean, this is true evil. And she told Melinda to smell the tire iron. Smell of blood was apparently a great thing to Lori.
What is wrong with people?
They also sexually assaulted Shanda with the tire iron.
Oh my God.
And they did this for hours. They would drive around, they would stop when they got bored, and they would assault her in the back with it and beat her over the head a couple times with it. And they did this for 4 hours, off and on. When they did finally arrive back at Lori's house, it was right around sunrise. So we're about 6, 7 o'clock in the morning maybe. And the other two girls were asleep and they woke them up. Hope asked what happened with Shanda, and Lori was bragging about the torture and describing it to them. And apparently she was being so loud about it that Lori's mom woke up.
Oh boy.
I don't think Lori's mom heard anything about the conversation. She just got mad at the girls for being out so late. Mm-hmm. And then she offered to cook them breakfast. But they declined breakfast because who has an appetite?
Right.
Not them. But the other girls had to go home. That was their excuse. So they hopped back in the car and they left. They kind of drove down the end of the street. And they wanted to show Hope and Tony what Shanda looked like.
Oh my God.
So they stopped on the side of the road and they said, hey, come look in the trunk. I want you to see what she looks like. Look what we did. It was a trophy or something. Tony refused. She would not get out of the car and look at her, but Hope did. And apparently, Hope sprayed Shanda with a Windex bottle and said, you're not so hot now, are you? She's got her head caved in. She's been stabbed however many times. She's probably, I can't imagine what she looks like right now. Can't even imagine what this looks like. And you're spraying her with Windex and taunting her. That's fucking evil.
That is too much.
Yeah. The girls then drove to a gas station, filled up on gas. They bought a 2-liter bottle of pop. They poured that out and then filled it up with gasoline. The girls then drove out to a remote area outside of Madison. And once again, Tony refused to leave the vehicle, but the other 3 wrapped Shanda in a blanket. Shanda's still alive at this point. She's not dead. She's been tortured. She's been beaten. I mean, she's holding on by a thread. But she is alive. And they carried her to a field by a gravel road. From what one of the girls say, which is kind of the saddest part, one of the girls say that when they wrapped her up in the blanket, that Shanda was like gripping onto the blanket. So she was at least conscious enough to be holding onto the blanket. Like she wasn't completely out of it. But Hope then poured the gasoline all over Shanda and they set her on fire. And then they hopped in the car and they left. But they got a few miles down the road and they weren't like super convinced that Shanda was dead. So they decided to go back and pour the rest of the gasoline on her just to ensure that she was
oh my gosh,
dead. Then after that, they decided to go to McDonald's and eat breakfast. That was around 9:30 a.m. They were laughing and carrying on about Shanda's badly burned body looking like one of the sausages they were eating.
This is just crazy. That there are people, kids out there like that.
These kids are so resilient. They can do that to a human and go eat a freaking McMuffin.
Yeah.
And then joke about how it looks like her dead
and they're like,
burned body.
The oldest one is like 17.
Yeah.
16. And then is it 2 15-year-olds?
Yeah. Apparently, Tony called a friend and told them about the murder. Like right away, she told someone. And then Tony and Hope were dropped off at their houses, and Lori and Melinda went back to Melinda's house. Melinda called Amanda and told Amanda about how she killed Shanda, and told Amanda that she needed to come over to the house. Now, Amanda says that she didn't believe this. She didn't believe that they actually killed Shanda. But then when she came over to the house, when she said she didn't believe them, they were like, here, come look in the trunk. We'll show you. And so they opened up the trunk and you could just see all the blood in there and like handprint in there and stuff. And so Amanda like immediately got scared and left. But they told her like, do not tell anybody. So Amanda was afraid to say anything too. So Amanda didn't say anything to anybody. So she got picked up on January 10th. We are now January 11th. It's just the next day. We're going to kind of go to another side of the story here. Like, okay, this is what the girls were doing at this time. Mm-hmm. And now on the other end is when this body is going to get found. So later in the morning on January 11th, 2 brothers were driving down this remote road.
Yeah.
On their way to go hunting. And they noticed her body on the side of the road. I mean, her body was literally on the side of the road. It wasn't even like far into a field. It was like super easy to see. Like if they were trying to conceal.
Yeah.
They didn't do it. They were children. They didn't know how to hide a body, apparently. When they first saw it, they thought it was like a mannequin. But once they got closer, they realized that it was the burnt body of a child. They called police at 10:55 a.m. And the police's first impression was that it was a drug deal gone wrong, and they didn't really suspect any local people. I don't know why they thought that, but that was just their first impression. And it was also stated that her body was posed, like intentionally, like someone intentionally posed it in the way that it was, because it was posed in a weird way. I didn't get that from any of the girls' story, but it may have happened. Melinda may have posed her in a weird way. It was also found that Shanda's face and hands were burnt in an attempt to make her unrecognizable and unidentifiable. And she was found in the... I may edit this out because I don't know how to say it, so I'm going to try my best. It's called the pugilistic stance, and it's with their arms stretched out and clenched fist, which is a common sign of death by burning. So that's how they were able to prove that she was alive when they set her on fire, is her hands were clenched.
Oh my God, that's just awful.
Yeah. By 1:45 p.m. that afternoon, Shanda's parents had filed a missing person report. And at 8:20 p.m. that same day, a very hysterical Tony Lawrence and Hope Rippey went to the sheriff's office with their parents. They both gave very emotional statements identifying the victim as Shanda and naming the other two girls. They immediately told the police about the events of the previous night, and they were able to match the body to Shanda's missing person report and obtain dental records that positively identified Shanda as the victim. Melinda and Lori were arrested on January 12th, and the majority of the evidence were statements made by Tony and Hope. All four girls were being charged as adults, even though they were 15, 16, and 17. They were being charged as adults, which they should have been. Especially Melinda. This was a planned thing. I mean, it's just wild. But to avoid the death penalty, they all pled guilty. So, and I hate this about the judicial system. Someone can plead guilty to something and they get a lesser sentence just because they're saying that they're guilty instead of trying to get away with it. But all girls pled guilty. And since most of the girls had troubled homes growing up, that also played a big factor in their sentencing and whatnot. Some people felt that those were gating factors and out of the girls' control, and it was somewhat of an excuse as to why they did what they did.
No.
So there's not much of a trial because they pled guilty to it. So I'm not really going to say a whole lot. But Lori and Melinda were both sentenced to 60 years in prison. And both of them served in the women's prison in Indianapolis. Hope Rippey was sentenced to 60 years. And she did later appeal and got her sentence reduced to 35 years. Tony Lawrence pled guilty to one count of criminal confinement and was sentenced to 20 years, which is crazy, but something I will never understand. Lori and Melinda were sentenced to 60 years, right?
Yeah.
They're already out. This happened in 1991. And these women...
So they didn't get, like, life without parole? No, just 60 years?
No, just because they pled guilty.
So did they do the 60? Full 60?
No, they're already out.
So how long did they actually spend for killing somebody?
Setting someone on fire.
That was still alive. And that was a kid.
As gruesome as a crime this is, there's a lot of very upset people that these people are out of prison.
Well, yeah.
Especially Melinda and Lori, because they were the true, like, really brutal ones here. Tony was there, and who knows what would have happened if Tony didn't have so much remorse about it and tell on herself. Would they have gotten away with it?
What about Hope, though? Why was she laughing in her picture?
Oh, yeah. Hope, she states that she was smiling in her picture like this because she was really upset and crying. And the police were cracking jokes, trying to make her feel better.
No, they weren't.
And they said a joke when it was time for her mugshot, and she smiled.
No.
That's what she says.
I don't think the police were just cackling up jokes when a 12-year-old's dead. I think she came up with that.
Yeah, to make
Because
herself
it
feel
looks
better.
really bad.
It does. It looks really bad. I mean, at least Lori looks remorseful.
I don't
Lori
know.
doesn't look proud and happy about what
No,
she
but
did.
that looks like Lori's face permanently. It looks like that's how she always would look in any picture you took of her.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, that's what like her school pictures look like too.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the only reason.
Yeah. And apparently Lori had told police that she's always believed that she was destined to kill somebody and go to prison for the rest of her life.
Only it wasn't. It was only 30 years.
I know, they're already out. Because what? That would... Like I said, Shanda would only be 45 this year. That means these girls are only like 40,
Right.
46, 47. They
Right.
still
have a whole life ahead of them.
have a whole life ahead of them still.
Mm-hmm.
Especially Tony Lawrence got out in December of 2000 after serving 9 years. Which I wasn't super upset about her because she didn't participate. I think she should have went and got help. You know, when the girls left for 4 hours.
Yeah.
But
she should have done a lot of things differently, in my opinion.
Yes. I think she should have too.
I think everyone who was there should have got the maximum sentence. I don't think any human being who can crack jokes with someone dying in the trunk and go to sleep, I don't think they deserve. I don't care if she actually physically did it. I mean, there's something mentally wrong with you.
Yeah, there is. There absolutely is.
I mean, if you know there's someone dying outside and you're just drinking cold pop, I mean.
Yeah.
No, they all should have got life without parole. They should all still be in prison, in my opinion. Every single one of them.
Oh, yeah.
Tony included.
Tony included. Tony is very... She won't talk to anybody.
I wouldn't either.
I've only seen one picture of her, and they just say that it is believed to be Tony Lawrence. So I'm not even 100% sure that it is her.
Yeah.
So I'm really not even sure that it is her.
She changed her name, I bet, and moved away.
Yeah, she probably did. But Hope Rippey was released in April of 2006 after serving 14 years. She literally put gasoline on her. She may not have lit the fire herself, but she poured the gasoline on Shanda.
She also held her down so they could finish stabbing her.
Yeah. Hope was also on Dr. Phil. And I will say, from the interview I watched with Hope, she really, truly seems like she is she's in a constant state of grief over what she did. Like, I don't think an hour goes by in her life that she's not so upset that she did what she did. She's the only person that I've seen that I think is really, truly remorseful about what happened that day.
Yeah. I am glad she has to deal with that, though, and live with it the rest of her life.
And she does, and she's living in agony. She truly is. And on Dr. Phil, it would actually be really interesting. Go watch it on Dr. Phil.
Yeah.
Hope Rippey. But
I'm going to check it out.
She's Shanda's mom and sister are on there talking to her. And they are grilling her hard. And, I mean, she is sobbing. Just like, I don't know what I can say to you.
Does the family ever blame the girlfriend or the girl, Amanda? Because, I mean, honestly, it wasn't her fault. She was a kid.
I think that they do.
They do.
I think they blame Amanda. Because I think in their opinion, they're thinking that Amanda never liked Shanda. And that she was only, like, leading Shanda on. Or, like, talking to her as a joke. I think that's how they believe it. That's not how Amanda tells the story.
Right.
But they believe it that Amanda wasn't ever truly her friend.
Because I don't think Melinda you know what I mean? If it was a joke, I don't think she would have been so strung out about it.
Yeah, if it was truly a joke, why would she
Right.
murder this girl over it?
No, I think Amanda probably had real feelings for her.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I could be wrong.
Yeah. And on the Dr. Phil episode is where they were accusing Amanda of being a child molester. And she's like, anything physical we ever did was because Shanda wanted to do it. You know, she was only 14 at the time. I don't know how you can sit and say a 14-year-old is a child molester of a 12-year-old. I don't know. I don't know what my opinion is on that. Shanda's mom always said, you know, she never said she wanted any ill will towards any of the girls that did this to Shanda. She always said she wanted them to serve their sentence. And she gave kind of props to Lori Tackett because Lori was the only one out of the 4 that never tried to appeal her sentence. Everyone always tried to appeal their sentence, like, this sentence is too harsh for me. And Lori's like, no, I did what I did. I'm going to serve my time. Shanda's father, Stephen, died of alcoholism in 2005 at the age of 53. Shanda's mom, Jackie Vaught, stated that Shanda's dad was so distraught over his daughter's murder that he did everything he could to kill himself, besides putting a gun to his head. She said he drank himself to death and truly died of a broken heart. And Jackie, kind of before the Dr. Phil thing, Jackie always made it a point not to speak or contact any of Shanda's killers. She didn't want anything to do with them. But however, in 2012, she did make her first contact with Melinda herself in an indirect way. So at the prison that Melinda was in, she worked for a program called ICANN, which is the Indiana Canine Assistance Network program. And it was a program within the prison for prisoners to train dogs. And those dogs would be trained, and then they would go to people with disabilities that needed service pets. And a breeder came to Shanda's mom, Jackie, and said, I just want you to watch this video of Melinda with these dogs, and I just want to see what you think. And Shanda's mom watched the video, and in her words, she said that it was like watching someone be reborn. Like, she kind of had a love for Melinda.
Oh, good God.
Like, this was a person that had really, truly healed from what they had done and been reborn as a good person. So, Shanda's mom decided to buy a puppy and donate it to this program, and they named the puppy Angel. And she sent it to Melinda for Melinda to train in Shanda's honor.
I'm sorry, that's just weird to me.
It is. It's very weird. Jackie got...
And I don't mean that wrong from her mom. I feel like people grieve in maybe different ways, and maybe she needed that to heal, but I could never.
Yeah. Jackie did receive a lot of criticism over this. She did. People are like, how? No. How could you do this? How could you give something to the person that took your child away, especially in such a violent manner? Yeah. Anyway, she stated, it's my choice to make. She's my child. If you don't let good things come from bad things, nothing gets better. And I know what my child would want. My child would want this. So, and kind of like how you mentioned, people grieve in different ways.
Yeah.
So honestly, who are we to tell a mother that lost her child, especially in such a gruesome way, how she's supposed to grieve about it? Because unless you've been through this and you've lost a child, you know, it's hard to say what it would take to get over that. And this happened in 2012. This is 21 years after she died. She might have taken 21 years and just living in agony. And this is what finally, like, helped her heal, was actually doing this. I don't know. Who are we to say?
Yeah.
Who are we to judge? We can, say all, I would never, because I don't think I would.
Yeah.
I really don't think I would ever be able to do that.
No. Yeah.
But who knows?
Yeah.
After 21 years of never finding the answer on how to live with the grief. Yeah. There have also been a lot of publications about this case. Like I said, there were 2 books written about this. One called Little Lost Angel by Michael Quinlan and Cruel Sacrifice by Aphrodite Jones. A play has been made about this called Hazelwood Junior High. In 2003, a novel titled Penance by Eliza Clark centers on a murder with details and characters largely based on this case. And our case was also featured on Law & Order, Cold Case, Dr. Phil, Killer Kids, the 1990s, The Deadliest Decade. So that is the case of Shanda Sharer.
Ooh. That was pretty brutal.
I can't believe that 15, 16-year-old girls can spiral that much out of control.
No.
Because I don't even think Melinda planned for it to get that bad. Like I said, I think it just spiraled out of control and they were all feeding off of each other. And oh my God.
She was talking about it for like a month though and threatening her.
Lord have mercy.
I think it was building up.
I feel bad for the girls that
and this was
didn't
in
realize.
New Albany, Indiana?
New Albany. New Albany is like right outside of Louisville.
Okay.
Well, actually, I'm sorry. The murder happened in Madison. She was living. Madison's kind of a little, it's like on the edge of what as well, kind of like closer to Cincinnati. Well,
thank you guys for tuning in with us.
Yeah, I'm sorry you had to listen to that, but like I said, bring awareness, like know what your kids are doing.
Yeah, and if someone's threatening them, don't take it lightly.
Kids are sneaky and you know your kids, so if they're acting weird, go with your instinct. It's crazy psychos out there. And they're just out living life right now. That's the biggest thing that blows my mind.
Me too.
They're just out living life. What are they doing right now? I found Amanda Heavrin on LinkedIn, which she didn't commit the murder or anything. I didn't find any of the others on socials. Yeah. But Amanda's all over the socials. And she's like in the Louisville area still, so. I don't know. But anyway, thank you all for listening. And
we will see you next week.
We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.